It was December 14th, 1992, a chilly Monday afternoon in Dallas, Texas. The sky hung low with winter clouds, casting a gray pallor over the Methodist Children's Hospital. We're inside. Machines beeped in steady rhythm, and the antiseptic smell clung to everything. In a small room at the end of the hallway on the third floor, 8-year-old Tommy Winters lay in his hospital bed. His small frame, made even smaller by the illness that had been ravaging his body for nearly 2 years. The leukemia had returned after a brief remission, and this time, the doctor spoke in hushed tones outside his door. Tommy's parents tried to maintain brave faces, but their eyes betrayed the weight of what they knew. On the nightstand beside Tommy's bed sat a collection of Michael Jackson memorabilia. Posters carefully taped to the walls, a well-worn Thriller cassette tape, and a single white sequin glove that Tommy had made himself out of his grandmother's old evening glove and his mother's craft supplies. When the Make-A-Wish Foundation had approached Tommy about granting him any wish in the world, his answer came without hesitation. "I just want to see Michael Jackson once," he had said, his voice barely above a whisper, but filled with an unmistakable certainty. The hospital hallways had been buzzing with anticipation for days. Nurses adjusted their schedules, doctors prepared paperwork, and security made special arrangements. Even patients who were well enough to walk gathered in the common areas, hoping for a glimpse of the king of pop. The visit had been arranged in complete secrecy, with only a handful of hospital administrators and Tommy's immediate family aware of the exact timing. As the scheduled hour approached, an unusual silence fell over the children's ward. Parents whispered to their children, explaining who was coming, while others simply held their little ones' hands in quiet anticipation. Tommy, too weak to sit up unassisted, had been carefully propped against his pillows, his favorite Michael Jackson t-shirt freshly changed, his thin hair combed neatly to the side. His mother dabbed a bit of her perfume behind his ears, a small gesture to make him feel special for the momentous occasion. At exactly 2:14 p.m., a black Suburban with tinted windows pulled up to the hospital's private entrance. Security personnel moved swiftly, creating a protective corridor through service hallways and less trafficked areas. Michael Jackson, dressed in his characteristic black pants, a simple white shirt, and a black fedora, moved quickly through the hospital, accompanied by a small entourage that included his personal security, a representative from the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and the hospital's chief of pediatric oncology. His face was partially obscured by large sunglasses, but there was no mistaking the slender figure and the deliberate grace of his movements. The staff who glimpsed him passing held their breath, some reaching for phones to capture the moment, only to be gently reminded by security that no photographs were permitted. As Michael approached Tommy's room, the hospital administrator who had been leading the way paused, turning to the star with a solemn expression. "He's very weak today," she said quietly. "The treatments have been particularly difficult this week. But meeting you, it's all he's talked about for days." Michael nodded, removing his sunglasses and tucking them into his pocket. His eyes, dark and expressive, revealed a depth of understanding that needed no words. He asked for a moment alone before entering, standing silently in the hallway with his eyes closed, as if gathering himself for what lay ahead. Then, with a gentle knock that seemed to echo in the hushed corridor, he entered Tommy's room. The boy's reaction was subtle. His weakened state didn't allow for the excitement that might have otherwise overcome a child meeting their hero. But his eyes, sunken from illness yet still bright with youth, widened in disbelief. For several seconds, neither spoke. Tommy's parents stood at the foot of the bed, the mother's hand pressed to her mouth, the father's arm wrapped protectively around her shoulders. Michael moved forward slowly, approaching the bed with reverence, as if aware that he was stepping into a sacred space of hope and suffering. "Hello, Tommy," he said, his voice soft and higher than many expected, yet filled with a warmth that immediately dissolved any formality in the room. "I heard you wanted to meet me." Tommy's lips trembled, forming words that initially came without sound. Then, summoning strength from some hidden reserve, he spoke the words that would later be remembered by everyone in that room. "I just wanted to see you once," he said, "before I have to go." The simplicity and devastating honesty of the child's statement hung in the air. Michael's composure visibly shifted. Those closest to him would later recall how, in that moment, the superstars seemed to disappear, leaving only a human being confronted with the purest form of admiration and the harshest reality of mortality. Without hesitation, Michael took Tommy's small hand in his, lowering himself to sit at the edge of the bed. "Well, I'm here now," he said, his voice catching slightly, "and I'm so glad I get to meet you." What happened next was not part of any planned itinerary or scripted celebrity hospital visit. Michael Jackson stayed with Tommy for over 3 hours. Hospital staff, initially concerned about the strain on the young patient, were repeatedly reassured by Tommy's parents that their son hadn't shown this much energy in weeks. The scheduled 15-minute visit extended as Michael requested a chair, settled in beside the bed, and began to truly connect with the boy who had wished only to see him once. They talked about music, with Michael asking Tommy about his favorite songs. They discussed dreams, with Tommy sharing that before he got sick, he had wanted to dance like Michael. With a gentleness that belied his global stardom, Michael asked Tommy if he would like to learn a few simple moves, ones that could be done even from a hospital bed. The boy's face lit up with an incandescent joy that momentarily erased the pallor of his illness. Using just their hands and arms, Michael taught Tommy the distinctive finger snaps and wrist rolls from Billie Jean, laughing softly as the boy mimicked his movements. When Tommy tired, Michael told stories from his own childhood, speaking of his brothers and their early days performing, carefully selecting memories appropriate for young years while still offering genuine insights into his life. At one point, a nurse entered to administer Tommy's scheduled medication. Michael stepped aside respectfully, but did not leave. Instead, he asked questions about Tommy's treatment, listening intently as the nurse explained the regimen. When Tommy winced at the insertion of N4, Michael diverted his attention by improvising a soft, gentle song. Not one of his known hits, but something new, created in that moment specifically for Tommy. The hospital corridors outside grew crowded as word spread of the extended visit. Other young patients, some in wheelchairs, others carrying 4 poles alongside them, gathered hopefully near Tommy's room. When Michael finally emerged, prepared to leave, he saw them waiting. Without prompting from staff or handlers, he spent another hour moving from child to child, offering each a moment of connection. Parents and hospital staff stood watching in silent awe, many wiping tears as they witnessed the genuine care he showed each patient. If this story moves you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel to hear more incredible moments from Michael's life that the media rarely showed. The true magic of his compassion extended far beyond the stage, touching lives in ways that headlines never captured. As the afternoon light began to fade outside the hospital windows, Michael returned to Tommy's room for a final goodbye. The boy was visibly exhausted, the excitement of the day having depleted his limited reserves. Yet he fought to stay awake, unwilling to miss a moment of this extraordinary visit. Michael knelt beside the bed, bringing himself to eye level with Tommy. From his pocket, he produced something that caught the light, a small crystal brooch in the shape of a shooting star, one that had adorned his costume during the Bad World Tour. "This is for you," he said, pressing it into Tommy's palm and closing the boy's fingers around it. "Whenever you feel scared or alone, I want you to hold this and remember that you're a star, Tommy. The brightest star I've met in a long time." Tommy's eyes filled with tears that spilled silently down his hollow cheeks. His voice, when he found it, was barely audible. "I won't ever forget today," he said. Michael's own eyes glistened as he replied, "Neither will I, Tommy. Neither will I." Before leaving, Michael did something unexpected. He asked everyone else to step out of the room, Tommy's parents, the hospital staff, even his own entourage. For 5 minutes, he sat alone with Tommy, their conversation private and unwitnessed. What passed between them remained their secret, though Tommy's mother would later say that whatever Michael told her son gave the boy a peace she hadn't seen since his diagnosis. When Michael finally departed the hospital, the winter day had given way to early evening. The security team rushed him through the corridors and out to the waiting Suburban, but witnesses noted how he paused just before entering the vehicle, looking back at the hospital with an expression of profound emotion. The visit might have remained a beautiful but private interaction, known only to those directly involved, had it not been for what happened next. 3 days later, on December 17th, a delivery arrived at the hospital, not just for Tommy, but for every child in the pediatric ward. Personalized gift packages containing autographed memorabilia, video messages, and toys carefully selected for each child's age and interests. For Tommy, there was something extra, a handwritten letter, the contents of which his parents chose never to reveal completely, saying only that Michael had promised to stay connected to their son for however long or short his journey might be. And connected he remained. Over the next 4 months, as Tommy's condition deteriorated, Michael maintained regular contact through phone calls, video messages, and even 2 more personal visits when his tour schedule brought him near Texas. Hospital staff marveled at the bond that had formed between the megastar and the small boy from Dallas. In all my years of pediatric medicine, Dr. Sarah Levinson, Tommy's primary oncologist, would later recall, "I've never seen a celebrity follow through with such consistent care and genuine connection." It wasn't publicity. Most of it happened with no cameras, no press releases, not even hospital announcements. It was simply one human being reaching out to another in a time of need. On April 22nd, 1993, Tommy Winters passed away peacefully in his sleep, the crystal star brooch clutched in his small hand. His parents, honoring what they said was a promise to Michael, did not alert the press about their son's death or the star's involvement in his final months. It was only years later when a local Dallas newspaper ran a retrospective piece on the hospital's Make-A-Wish program that parts of the story emerged into public knowledge. The article included a black and white photograph that a nurse had taken with the family's permission. Michael sitting beside Tommy's bed, their hands clasped, both focused intently on a model spaceship they were building together. The image captured none of the celebrity aura that typically surrounded Jackson, showing instead the simple, profound connection between 2 souls, one at the height of fame, the other facing the end of a brief but meaningful life. If these stories of Michael's compassion and humanity touch your heart, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. By sharing these moments, we keep alive the true legacy of a man who is so often misunderstood by the media, but whose heart spoke volumes through actions like these. The story might have ended there, preserved as a beautiful memory for those who knew Tommy and a touching anecdote for those who learned of it later. But in 2009, following Michael Jackson's own unexpected death, a package arrived at the Winters family home. Inside was the single white sequin glove that Tommy had made, the one that had sat on his hospital nightstand during that first visit. Accompanying it was a note, written in Michael's distinctive handwriting, that had apparently been prepared some time before and entrusted to his staff with instructions for its delivery, should anything happen to him. Tommy showed me what true courage looks like, the note read in part. His strength in facing the unknown taught me more about life than any success I've ever achieved. He wanted to see me once. I needed to see him forever. Today, that glove and note are not displayed in any museum. They remain with the Winters family, a private reminder of the bond between their son and an international icon who, for a brief but significant time, stepped away from the spotlight to sit in a hospital room and build model spaceships with a boy who just wanted to see him once. In the years since, the Methodist Children's Hospital has established a performance space in their recreational therapy wing, named simply Tommy's Corner. While it makes no official reference to Michael Jackson, the staff knows its true origin. And on special occasions, when the children gather there for entertainment or to showcase their own talents, many swear they can feel the presence of both Tommy and Michael, united in the legacy of that December afternoon when humanity transcended celebrity, and a simple wish created an extraordinary connection that would outlive them both.